Okay, so I have a bit of a preface for this one. I want to like really establish why I'm making this coat. So I am from the San Francisco Bay Area, and in San Francisco, every holiday season we have this wonderful thing called the Great Dickens Christmas Fair and Holiday Party. It is basically a Renaissance fair, but for like mid-Victorian London, specifically at Christmas time. Like their whole thing is that it's perpetually Christmas Eve. I have been going to this fair since I was like probably about 7 or 8 years old. My timeline's a little fuzzy, but from what I can piece together about like the circumstances around the first time that I went, that's approximately, probably. So like suffice to say that I have been going to this fair for well over half of my life. And this year, as like kind of a logical next step for someone who is a fair person and an actor, I was going to start participating in the fair as a performer. And then we got a new plague, so I can't participate this year because it's canceled and no one can participate. But I still have every intention of doing so when the next opportunity comes, which hopefully will be next year. Holy shit, please let it be next year. So when that time comes, I am still going to need an upgraded costume from what I have right now, which includes a new coat. And obviously I don't like need to make it right away, but I'm going to anyway because I want to have it just to like wear in the winter, and this is how I'm coping with the event being canceled, I guess. I mean, on the bright side, I suppose at least I have more time to make this outfit because it's very complicated and I'm intimidated. Now, they try to be accurate where they can, but they're actually pretty lax on what passes as appropriate costume attire because all of the performers have to costume themselves, and obviously not all of them are going to have the resources to be able to like buy a period accurate coat or can make one themselves. Like the outer layer on my boyfriend's costume is just a literal suit jacket. But the only thing that I have that would even slightly pass as period is this pea coat, which one, I am still pretty sure wouldn't pass the costume check, and two, is entirely synthetic, so it would suck to wear anyway because it gets so warm in that building. So obviously what this means is I have no choice at all but to make an entirely new coat from scratch out of only natural fibers. Which, like, you know, I don't make the rules, but like... So the period that the fair is portraying is from 1842 to 1863, which is a big old chunk of time. The website says the Great Dickens Christmas Fair is a theatrically historical recreation of 19th century London as it was seen through the eyes of Charles Dickens. Though Mr. Dickens' writing spans a good portion of the mid to late 1800s, we are setting our costume timeline to the years of 1842 to 1863. I believe the intent there is to have the costuming reflect the period during which Dickens was the most active in his writing career, and also probably to avoid having the participants' styles clash too much, because like stuff from the 1830s is like nothing like stuff from the 1860s. So what I want to do is to make a frock coat that looks like approximately 1850 or so, because that fits nice and comfy right like in the middle of the portrayed time period, and also just because I like the silhouette that frocks had at the time. So I have this pattern. This is from Laughing Moon, it's number 109. This is a pattern that is recommended on the Dickens Fair website in like the costuming guidelines section. It is a copy of an extant garment that is dated from 1880. And on the pattern it does say that the style is common from like 1860 to 1900, which does overlap a little bit with the portrayed time period for the fair, but it's still centered more in like the late century styles. I definitely have done way more research than I needed to. So in the 1880s, the fashion was to have like a very slim, elongated silhouette, and from what I can tell, the men's fashion does seem to follow this. I think the coats tended to be like very straight up and down, and this coat does demonstrate that as well. It's like, it's a very straight cut. Whereas the mid-century fashion had their coats nipped in at the waist a little bit more, and they had more of an hourglass shape, and that's the look that I want. Now, my plan for this pattern is to first make a mock-up as is, exactly how it tells me to, and then from there alter it to make it look a little bit more mid-century. I'm gonna have to do some adjusting on this anyway because it's a men's garment, and most cis men are larger than me. The smallest size this pattern has is for a 34-inch chest measurement, and my chest is 31 inches if you include the boobs. So no matter what, I will probably be sizing this down somewhat because I want it to fit nicely, you know. So during that process, I will also be trying to alter the silhouette a little bit. I am hoping that all I will need to do for this is like fit the upper half to me a little bit better, and then down to the waistline it'll fit snugly, and then leave the hem unchanged so that it has more of a flare in the skirt. It seems like a really simple thing that should work, but you just never know. I'm not a professional, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, I have studied this pattern a bunch. I've gone and I have labeled on every piece of the pattern what pieces are on each of them and what I will need for the single-breasted frock coat. So see, I've got a system here. I have written down coat pieces and waistcoat pieces, just like what pieces are included on every page, and then I've got circles around the pieces that I need to cut, like the pieces that I am not going to need. So like 19 is a piece that is only used for the double-breasted frock coat, and I'm making the single-breasted version. And then in the case of the waistcoats, 30 and 42 are in waistcoat B, and then the rest of them are used in waistcoat A. So there's two different waistcoats that you can make from this pattern. You don't need to know that because I'm not making a waistcoat in this video, but eventually I am going to make this one. I'm sorry it's not pretty in here. I do what I can, but it is a garage, so... Okay, so for the mock-up, I'm only going to be cutting out the outer layer. I'm not going to do like linings or interfacings or anything like that. This is mostly for like the fit of the thing. So there's like 8 pieces that I'll have to cut out of the mock-up material. I'm hoping that it's enough. All I have for mock-up material is a bed sheet that I got at a thrift store. Can I help you? It's not snack time. Oh, this is plenty of fabric. I just realized how crooked this shot is. That is honestly kind of incredible. Like, whoa! Ma'am, are you okay? Really fun because I am equally terrified of cutting into the paper and damaging the pattern, and cutting into the paper and just fucking up my fabric scissors. So I hate this. I hate having to follow the paper exactly. I suppose I could have just traced the outlines of the pattern on the fabric, but like, is that who I am? No, I guess not. Truly, I should have just traced this onto the fucking, I think that's probably what I'll do for when I do the actual fabric. I will trace the pattern pieces onto the fabric in chalk, and then I won't be suffering. You know? I'm looking at this curve right here. I'm tracing all of this. Hey, you, bagel thief. I know every bit of the construction has a purpose. I know that, like, it does all matter. But what is the point of this? This is the tiniest goddamn dart I have ever seen. What does this do? What does this do? What does it do? It's so small! We've encountered our first instruction that's far too vague. This line right here, press the tails at the center back of the fold line. I understand that conceptually. I don't have an iron or an ironing board though, so haha. So like, yes, I know what that means. I know that I am supposed to, you know, iron these in a particular way at this, you know, along this line. So like right around, you know, here. The thing is, it says that it's then supposed to look like that with this little thingy, and I cannot fathom how I am supposed to fold these things together to make that little corner thing happen. I can't, like, it's, the stitch line stops too far down for it to, like, you know, do that. So I can't, like, I don't know how I'm, like, if the instinct is to, like, press the seam open, but that's just gonna leave the seam, you know, straight the whole way. Like, I don't know how, like, what am I supposed to do to make it do that? Like, you have to tell me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You have to tell me. Okay, I'm looking at the backs of frock coats, and, like, there is like a little stitch that is supposed to happen there. This is this pattern. This person made this pattern, and they don't have it. They probably got confused by the instructions because they're super vague. So in the back of these coats, there is a little stitch, and like these definitely do fold over, like they're, you know, they are supposed to overlap. What I'm thinking it might be, so since it's just the stitch and it, but the fold comes like slightly to the side, which I don't see. This is like, I don't understand. Like, the center seam is in fact in the center, and then they do a little thingy out to the side, and then one of the tails comes over slightly to the side to overlap with the other one, and I don't know how that's supposed to happen. My thought for a second was like, oh, maybe it just like, we fold these over, you can kind of see it's underneath. Girl, can you fucking... My thought was perhaps that it folds like this, and then these get finished off somehow on the inside, and then this stitch happens here, and it's like that, but no, it's supposed to be that the stitch comes out, and then the fold comes there, so like there has to be like some of this fabric coming out, but it can't do that because the stop of the stitch comes out lower than the fabric is cut to do that, and I don't understand, like literally at no point in the pattern does it elaborate on this. Not that I've looked through it for this specifically, so it's like, well, just go fuck myself or something. Like, it makes sense that this, you know, that this person here they don't have it. And it's like, yeah, like, if you don't already know how it's supposed to work, how are you gonna figure it out? It doesn't tell you what to do! It doesn't tell you what to do! Oh, never mind, actually. Apparently there is a whole page that tells you exactly how to do the back pleat. But that still means that this image is a goddamn fucking liar. Because that doesn't exist. That little back pleat, that doesn't exist. It happens on fucking... It happens on step 24. I have attached the front pieces now, and I tried it on just kind of for shits and giggles. And she's large. The waistline, this is the waist seam. It comes, these are my hips. Here, I've tucked my shirt into my leggings, which feels a little bit weird, but this right here where my hand is my natural waist. These sit like just below that, sort of. This is the top of my hip bone right here. And the waist seam comes down to here. There's gonna be some resizing. I'd like to introduce you to my method of pressing things. I don't have an iron or an ironing board, so you know. I really hope I have an iron. And an ironing board by the time I get around to actually making the real coat, whenever the fuck that may be. I will be wanting to press my seams open, so it'd be nice if I could do that. I know that's entirely on me to make happen, but like, so this is fun. When you stitch the skirt piece to the top pieces, you're supposed to leave a little like gap in the stitching so that it creates a buttonhole. So you start stitching like at the fold line, I think, and then you stitch to the box and then leave a gap, and then continue stitching. These, like the center front and the fold line, these line up, and the buttonholes line up, but if you line these up, nothing else lines up. You have these notches here, you see, and there's, they don't line up. Also, this sentence in the pattern is completely contradictory, because it says start stitching 5/8 of an inch from the front edge, right on the fold line. And, it's not. The fold line is not 5/8 of an inch away from anything. I'm assuming that, in the case of the double-breasted version, it is 5/8 of an inch away from something. Maybe the front edge of, like, the lapel piece. This is piece 18, I think. But it's a piece that I am not using because I am making the single-breasted. And so that doesn't apply to me. So it's really just like, cool, I'll go fuck myself.
I wouldn't open that window if I were you, dear. Calcifer's too weak right now to protect me.
I need to check something. Can I have my leg, please? Madam? Yeah. I just want you all to know, I am in hell because these are the least helpful instructions I have ever seen. Because, one, I don't know what 1/2 inch beyond the box means. Does it mean this way? Does it mean in this direction? Does it mean in that direction where I've drawn that little dot there? Like, it doesn't tell me. There's no indication on the pattern. There is no indication on the pattern. I don't know for sure which direction I am supposed to fold the tops over. Like, are they supposed to go in the same direction? Or are they supposed to go opposite directions? I certainly don't know which direction I'm supposed to fold the fold line. Are they also supposed to be opposite directions? Do they go the same direction? Because eventually something will be going in, like, and then this is just on the right side, lap the left side over the right side, and hand stitch the lap just at the top. Like, what do you mean lap the, like, what? So I cut it at the start of the fold line because that was, like, the safer option. That's cutting less. That seems like a less drastic thing to do, and it seems like a more sensible thing to do, but I think I have to cut it down to here because there's, like, it maybe has an indication, like that right there, that little teeny tiny thingy right there might be the box, and so it's like 1/2 inch beyond the box, like right there. Is that where I'm supposed to, like, it's not very clear. I am not sure where I'm supposed to cut to. You didn't explain this well enough to me. So I don't know who made this pattern, but, like, you could have done better. Is this a process video, or is this just me giving a really bad review of this pattern? Maybe I'm just hungry. I don't know. Like, I understand that there are some things that you just don't think to write out explicitly, but, like, me being the person who is receiving this pattern is like, I can't read your mind. I don't know which direction to fold it over. You have to tell me. I want to kill somebody. So I cut it the bigger amount, like, down, like, below, like, 1/2 inch below where the stitching ends, just to see what it does, and that obviously isn't right, because now it looks like this, and it's like, well, that's definitely not supposed to be like that. I couldn't fathom that being the right answer, because then that would leave, like, raw edges and shit on the outside, and that's not usually what we're about in this Chili's. So, you know, I don't know what is going on. I think I'm still going to have to do outside research on how this works, because I can't
fucking do it. Like, it doesn't tell me how to do it. Like, I was, you know, you remember when I was like, oh, it doesn't tell me how to make the little thingy, like, and then I was like, oh no, never mind, I lied. I'm just an idiot. It's right here. Well, the thing is, the right here still doesn't help me. I'm going to lose my mind. Do you see what I have to go through? Do you see what I have to go through? They have a booth at the Dickens Fair. And so on God, when I see them, because I swear to God, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm going to be a performer at the fair. This is all I want in my life at this point. Like, literally, this is my only future goal. I don't do long term, you see. But when I see them, it's going to be on site. I'm gonna be like, you and your godforsaken patterns. I'm gonna have a stroke. I wanted to get so much done on this project today. I really want to get this video out before Christmas. And there's like 2 weeks until Christmas. And I want to get it out before Christmas because because I'm making it because it's a part of my Dickens Fair costume and it's a Grimace event. And I'm, you know, Merry Crisis.
I've taken a shower. I've made some ramen. I'm going to watch some Sailor Moon in a minute.
I've sort of loosely stitched the cut that I made that was the wrong cut. I am going to try... Okay, so I'm realizing that this is not quite in line with this. So I'm going to extend this cut to about here so that it is in line with the very end of the stitching. And I am hoping that that incites a miracle to happen and makes it so that I understand what is going on back here and what I'm supposed to do. This is incredibly fragile. That's kind of what it looks like split open, and that does seem to make it so that I can cleanly put this under this, which makes sense because that's how fabric works. If I flip it over, hopefully I will have some kind of epiphany. The epiphany is not happening. It's behaving much as I expected it to. This ought to be, I feel like the fold line ought to be like the bit that comes out, which means that the cut is still not quite in the right place. Okay, I keep looking at it and fiddling with it and nothing is happening, and I can't figure out what is wrong or what I'm supposed to do. So I think I have to make a sample of this section, put that together, and then figure it out with that and just seeing what the hell is going on, because this is the most confusing thing I have ever experienced. I've never been so clueless in a project before. Which is ridiculous, because I have instructions. So this is kind of inexcusable. But I have to make a little sample piece. Like a mock-up for the mock-up, basically. Okay, I had dinner, I watched some Sailor Moon, and I made this shitty little mock-up out of this really, truly horrible polyester stuff that I have. And I have figured it out. So what I did was, as an experiment, I decided to just disregard this little line right here entirely. So like, as if the instruction was just clipped to the end of stitching. So I clipped this right up to the end of the stitching. And then from there, when you fold this down, this tracks. This is 5/8 of an inch, and so that's the right length. And then when you fold it on the fold line and you press that down, and then you sort of like just pivot it so that these are out, and then it does that, and it does the thing. And that's so simple. That is so simple, and it makes sense. Like, this is the logical thing to do. So I don't know what this fucking line means. I don't know why this is here. literally, I spent so much time on this, and I didn't need to. And I'm going to throw hands if I ever meet the author of this pattern. I swear to God. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. Because it's literally just a lie? It's a lie. It's a lie? I don't understand because everything else makes so much, like, it makes sense. The rest of it works. The rest of the process works perfectly well, and this makes sense. You know, like, it's a weird, you know, wording, but I guess it's, you know, it's kind of a weird thing to put into words, I suppose. But, like, it makes sense. But I don't know what this means. What are you there for? So, anyway, if you buy this pattern and make this coat, make sure you disregard this fucking line, I guess, because it doesn't make sense. Ugh. Okay, it's really ugly and messy and can really only be called an approximation of what it's supposed to look like, but it's good enough for me. I don't care because it's a mock-up and I know what it's supposed to look like. I know how to actually get it to look nice. Pardon the very dim lighting, but I had a migraine today and it's better now, but if I turn the lights back on, it might make it worse again. So the biggest thing about this coat is that the waistline is down here, and you can see that that's not where my waist is. These are my hips, this is the top of my hip bone, and this is the waistline. So that has to be brought up at least like to about here, and that's the biggest thing. Aside from that, I would also like it to pinch in more at the waist. It's a nice shape just as it is, but I want it to be more of an hourglass sort of shape. I'm pretty okay with how all of this lays out up here. The only thing I will change about the upper area is probably like where the sleeve head sits. The sleeve starts here. This needs to sit up here, and that's not a terribly difficult problem to fix. I don't know if perhaps the waist seam is, like in this style, is supposed to actually fall below your waistline, you know, your natural waist, which is entirely possible. I don't actually know. I mean, I could check on the, you know, let's look at the pattern. This is the lowest button, and that is exactly where the waist seam is. The waist seam is here, and it looks like the natural waist on this mannequin would be around, on men it's lower, so it's probably around here. So that's already, the seam is already lower than the natural waist. So that's, you know, probably approximately where it's supposed to sit for this style. I want it higher. So that's my next point of process, is first to take several inches off of this. It looks like approximately, if I do 1, 2, 3, maybe 2.5 inches off of everything. What I have done here is, the pattern has lines on it where it's like lengthen or shorten here, so it's, you know, if you need to make it longer or shorter, that is the point at which you should do it. So I have traced that onto the mock-up pieces, and then I took a total of 2.5 inches off, so I measured like half of that, and then marked points, and then folded them up so that this is, you know, this right here is 1.25 inches long, and then the whole length that has been taken off is 2.5 inches.
this is, the waistline is now sitting approximately at my waist. Not the front of it, it's still a little bit lower, but that's just how it's patterned. But this back here, this is at my natural waist. So the next step after this is to make it a little bit more shapely in the top. All right, I've got two different versions of this going on, two different sort of ways of making it a little bit slimmer. So on this side, I've extended the dart sort of up and out. It's taken out 2 inches of length. And then on this side, I have taken in this side seam by 2 inches. I think I'm probably going to take it out, take the excess out of the side seam rather than having a dart here. It's not too bad, but I do think having a dart here would look a little bit weird visually. In addition to that, it also kind of, the way that darts work, if you were putting a dart here, in the front of like a shirt or a coat or something, you're usually doing that so that this is tight and this is not, because that makes room for boobs. And that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. So yeah, we're gonna take it out of the side seam. Again, I find myself with two options. On this side, I have simply taken off excess from the front. On this side, I have put darts in, just as an experiment. I'm not sure I like them. I did initially try taking the excess off the back of the fabric, but when I tried it on, pinned it on just to see how it would hang, and it was doing kind of weird stuff. It was hanging like lower, like noticeably lower in the front than it was in the back, and so I think, like, I don't know how to fix that, because I am not a professional, so I kind of just scrapped that idea. I have to sort of figure out why it does that. Like the fabric really likes to center right back here in like this sort of side back area, and that's, I'd like to not do that. It's definitely a result of me having taken so much in on the sides, but I don't know how to fix it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I don't know how it works. I don't know anything actually about tailoring or pattern drafting, so I'm just kind of improvising, as I always do. It's been a while since I've checked in. I've done things. I've made progress. We love to see it. We've had breakthroughs. I love innovation. I have, maybe I should take it off for this. All right, what I have done here on the back of the skirt is I have added a piece. I have added a piece up here to extend the waistline so that this seam curves more drastically. That also brings a lot of excess down here, and then I will cut this off, and then it will be level. It does sit nicely. What I was concerned with was keeping this, the front bit, on the straight grain, because this is on the straight grain, and I am 100% sure there is a reason for that. I don't want to mess with that. It probably very definitely needs to stay that way, so I didn't want to change that. And so this is now just a smaller waistline. I have also, in the front, I was still really kind of hating how low the waist seam was sitting in the front, especially since it curves up so drastically, and I think it looks much more drastic since I took so much out of this side seam here. So I took an inch off of this, and now that sits in a much more satisfying place that is not, you know, in the middle of my hips, but instead much closer to my natural waist. And then I also, on this seam, I was noticing, so like on this lad, I am noticing that if you see, this is where the narrowest point of the jacket is, but this button down here marks the waist seam. So the seam is here, but the narrowest point is up here. You know, on other ones, the waist seam tends to be the narrowest point, but that doesn't have to be true because this one is different. And I think I've seen a few other ones that are like this, where the waist seam is sitting a little bit below the natural waist, but closer around the natural waist, it is actually pinched in a little bit further. So I took that and I ran with it, and I took this seam in a little bit, maybe a lot of it. I took it in half an inch my natural waist, and I didn't want to alter the measurement of this area right here because I just didn't want to deal with that and like repinning and resizing everything over here. So I just kind of did that, and it seems to work just fine. So you can sort of tell on this side, that's all excess down there that will be cut off at some point. But you can see on this side, it's starting to curve a little bit more nicely, and it sits much better. You know, this right here, this where my hand is my natural waist, and that's in a much, you know, closer place as opposed to this, which is just not, it doesn't do it for me. And then in terms of the shoulders, this is how it is without anything taken in, and it folds rather nicely. Like if I just fold it up, it doesn't like make a fuss or anything. So I may be able to get away with just setting the sleeves higher than they're like supposed to, and then folding the seam allowance under, because that, you know, that works just fine. It fits really nicely. There's still room in the back, and I'm still not sure where, you know, if the high point is not sitting in the place that it's supposed to be. But I think I should be able to get away with just like folding the seam allowance here. I'm going to have to do something about, you know, the seam allowance here. I don't know if I want to just cut it, like I'm gonna have to cut it off, right? Like, the thing about it is I want it to actually have a decent amount of excess seam allowance in the shoulders, because in the past several months I have been thinking very seriously about testosterone, and so if I do go on T, my shoulders will be getting wider. I don't know how much, you can never know how much, probably not super drastically because I don't want to be on it forever, but like there will be changes to the bone structure, and so if that happens, I would like to be able, if necessary, to go back in and like edit things so that it will continue to fit me, because I want this to be a garment that I can wear for like the rest of my life maybe. So I want to be able to account for that in the pattern itself, and in like the, you know, just I want to have that excess in there, so as like a sort of just in case thing, so that I don't have to like go back and piece something in if I really need to extend the shoulders. I may not even have to do it ever, like I don't know, but I just, you know, I would like it to fit nice. And if my measurements change, I also need the coat to change. I'm realizing now that it's not going to be as simple as just scooting the stitch line up a little ways, because it does, you know, it does this, it kind of sticks out, and I'm understanding now this means that it's too tall for me, which makes sense because the whole thing was too big. So there has to be
height taken out of the armscye, like that much height, like a probably about an inch of height, and that will probably come from the side piece. Okay, I fucked with a couple things here and there, on this seam and on the side back seam, that one, and it has helped it to sit much closer to where it needs to. I think in the back it's much better, so I have a very good idea of what I should be doing when I make these into a pattern, and then I can, you know, fuck with that later with a second mock-up. So I'm gonna stitch this on. I'm also gonna put the other arm on like the way that it was before, just because I, you know, for the sake of having two arms on this thing, because I have to take a picture for the thumbnail. Okay, what I think I have is, I'm gonna call this a finished mock-up. I only fit it on this side. So this side is sort of like, we can have a comparison. We can have, you know, this is what it would be, and then this is closer to what it is supposed to be. My next step is to take it all apart and then make pattern pieces out of just this side. By no means is it like done. Like, this is not going to be my final mock-up, but I'm not going to make any more mock-ups for this video because I want to be done with this video and I want to edit it. And I want to be able to just make future mock-ups, probably like maybe one or two. And I want to be able to make those at my own pace without having to worry about recording any of that shit. So, yeah.
I decided I was gonna film a proper outro for this video because I haven't looked at the stuff that I filmed, the last things that I filmed since I recorded them, but I know they're a mess because I was very scattered at that particular moment in time. So it's January now. I am incredibly frustrated that I was not able to get this video finished and posted in the timeline that I wanted to, but you know, that's how it be sometimes. I had wanted this to go up sometime during December. Like, it's not a seasonal video, like it's not, you know, I didn't make it all like wintry themed or anything, but I did talk about like the reasons behind, you know, making the coat in the first place, and they are like seasonally based. They're it's a costume piece for a seasonal event, you know, and so since I mentioned Dickens in the video, I wanted the video to go up during the time that the fair would ordinarily have been running, but that didn't happen. So my next step for this like whole project is I need to like harvest the pattern from the altered mock-up and making a pattern from the changes that I've done, and then tweaking things as needed, and then however many more mock-ups that I need to do to like get everything to sit in the way that I want it to, and then eventually from that I will have a final pattern that hopefully will give me everything that I want. I will record some of that. I'm going to try my best to avoid doing any like talking to the camera updates during that process because those take a lot of time and I would like this to be a brief sort of thing. What I'm going to be doing is doing a little bit of mentioning it and having that footage be there in the beginning of the next video as sort of like a sort of jumping off point. Like here is where we left off from where we were before. Here is how I am going to then proceed with this thing. I have no idea when the next video is going to happen. I don't know how long the work on the rest of the coat is going to take me. I don't even know when I'm going to pick the work on this coat back up. I'm kind of on a break from sewing right now, just because, mostly because I sort of go through cycles, and I've been like gripped by a new hyperfixation lately that does not manifest itself in sewing, but rather through like visual art. And so I've been like doing a lot of watercolor painting and shit like that. So I don't know when I will like actually be interested in sewing in the near future even. So this is a very long-winded way of saying I have no idea when I'm gonna be productive in terms of videos and costuming and whatnot. I mean, at least I have the comfort of low stakes. Like, really, all of the deadlines that I have are entirely of my own doing. Like, lately I've been like, I want to put out, like, seasonal content, and it's just for me. But, you know, I don't have, like, any actual, like, outside factors that are pressuring me to put videos up within a certain time frame. Like, I only have, like, 270-something subscribers, and all of you are from the Snuffkin Hat video. Actually, no, there's definitely a handful of people here that, like, were here for the circus makeup. But for most of you, I'm just Hat Boy. I didn't outline past this point, so I don't have like any actual parting words planned, but if you watched this the whole way through, thanks. Yeah? Oh. I've been recording for 15 minutes. That's ridiculous. I need to stop the camera. Please. I'm trying to record audio, my dear. My sweet little baby child. Stormy! It's just me and my little baby scissors against the world. Because I don't have, like, real human grown-up scissors. Can you sit down somewhere? Ah! I fed you already. See, it seems like it's fine over here, but I know that I'm gonna cut things out and then everything will be horrible. Honestly, me too, bitch. Oh, I should not be turning around like that. That's dizzier than I usually would get.
I don't know what I'm doing. Ever. At any given time.
Oh, look at that, you can see her in the background. Yeah. Motherfucker. I am trying to work on this fabric? Can you be... Okay. Yeah? Hmm? Hi. I'm not looking forward to it, but that's a problem for future me. It's a problem for, like, January me. Is it still empty? Oh my god. You little fucking delinquent. Oh my god. There's going to be pad stitching. There's gonna be probably some other shit. I don't know.
Ma'am, you come up here and you step all over my fabric like I wasn't just in the middle of work. No, I still need to do stuff on this, babe.